I'm here with Chris Hallum, product manager at Microsoft. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me today, Raymond. It's good to see you.
Can you tell us what you're doing at Microsoft?
Absolutely. So I'm part of a team, of course. I'm a senior product manager for Windows Client Security. I focus on securing Windows devices. My specialty is related to the prevention side of protection. So my goal and my features is to prevent attacks, hacking, and malware from being successful. My peer, Heike Ritter, actually focuses on the post-breach side of the house. So when my features don't do all the work they should, then she has great capabilities to detect and respond and remediate from those types of situations. So two of us work together.
So we're here at Ignite, and at Ignite, Microsoft's always announcing great new stuff. What's the big new thing for Windows and security?
Yeah, there's really two things, two big areas that I'm going to cover. There's more things. There's so much at Ignite, but the two things I'd like to focus on today are one, related to threat protection. We made some big changes in that, and we've announced those, and so those will be exciting to tell you about today. The other thing is related to passwords. We've kind of moved further down the journey of eliminating passwords from our lives, and so we can talk about that as well.
Cool. So the first part is about getting Windows more secure and less vulnerable for attacks. How is that working nowadays?
Yeah, there's really two things that we're doing. Number one, when it comes to the attacks, which is my area, we've got some great news in terms of the quality of our protection. Over the last 2 years, we've made huge advancements in terms of prevention. Some of that comes through attack surface reduction, and that's kind of a complicated discussion, but the thing that most people think about when they think about prevention is antivirus. So we have a next generation antivirus solution, conceptually similar to what most people are doing in the industry right now. And we've provided really great results in terms of protection on industry tests, and we've been demonstrating that for about a year now. We've been pretty good beyond that, but in this year we've really kind of hit that almost 100% every month after month after month. So it's no longer us kind of scrapping our way to the top with our top competitors. We're actually amongst them consistently month on month, whether it's virus total or AV comparatives or AV test, we're scoring well, or maybe even SE Labs, which is one that people don't tend to know as much. We're doing great on all those fronts. So our customers are really now in a position where they can look at a product like Windows Defender ATP, and the first thing they're thinking about is the prevention good enough to displace the product we're using? We have prevention that we think is as good and maybe arguably better than what we're seeing elsewhere.
Cool. So, and what are there technical new announcements around this area?
There are. I mean, the first box you got to check with customers is the one I just talked about. Like, is the prevention I'm going to get good enough to displace the competitor? And so once you've got that, then you're in the game. And so what we announced yesterday actually is a security administration experience. We call it Microsoft Threat Protection. And so some of the feedback we've received from our customers is we have a lot of great products that manage the different entities that they care about. Maybe it's devices like Windows Defender ATP, or maybe it's data like Azure Information Protection, and identities with Azure Advanced Threat Protection, and Mail and SharePoint with Office Threat Protection. We have all these great products, but until recently they've really been separate interfaces. And so our customer feedback has been like, please bring these so that we have one unified experience. And so with Microsoft Advanced Threat Protection, Microsoft Threat Protection, we've done just that. We have a single integrated experience for security administrators that brings all of the entities they care about: the identity, the device data that I focus on, the information, the infrastructure, and identities all in one space. So that experience that people have been asking for has finally been combined. Now, when it comes to my area, which is Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection in the device, we've always had a gap related to the security admin experience. We had a couple of basic reports, but that was really about it. We've really enriched that with this release that's coming in the coming months here. And so if you want to slice and dice the types of attacks you're experiencing and understand what type of malware threats you're facing, you want to drill down and understand device health, we really finally have a holistic solution that's rich and robust that our customers will find very compelling versus the solutions that maybe they're using today.
Cool. So it appears like Windows is almost finished in a sense of being the most secure platform. Am I right?
That's an interesting question, Raymond. We have moved the needle incredibly far. but there's no end to the end of security. There are going to be new threats that emerge. But what I can tell you is this is a moment, a tipping point for our solutions to be competitive in the industry. They are providing industry-leading capabilities for prevention, for post-breach detection, and now with our new Microsoft Threat Protection capabilities with that integrated console that brings all of these experiences. We have a suite of capability that is going to be really interesting in the industry, and so it's going to be very competitive, and our customers are going to get some great results if they choose to partner and trust us.
So the next thing you mentioned is that you're working on identity in Windows, that things are changing in the near future. So what's happening there?
Well, the industry's been talking about moving away from passwords for as long as I can remember. It's well over a decade we've been talking about that. Microsoft joined a community and a working group called the FIDO Alliance. We've been a participant on that community for years and years and years, along with Google. Intel's on that. So we've got these amazing, very large companies with a common interest to solve this password problem and move to a multi-factor authentication solution that can be deployable not just in the enterprise but also at home for consumer scenarios. And so FIDO 2.0 specification was ratified well over a year ago. And so we knew that what the technology needed to be, and Windows Hello was based on that technology, and that's been in Windows for several years now. The next step in that progress was to make it so Windows Hello and implementations of the FIDO specification that maybe come from Google or others, that they could be used outside of the Windows ecosystem, that when you connect to your favorite websites, whether that's Facebook or Amazon or the endless others, that you could use that same type of standards-based technology and use that to access those sites using multi-factor authentication. The W3C, the standards body for the web, ratified the APIs to make that happen earlier in the year. And now we're really at this point where the industry can start adopting. And so, now is really kind of a call to action that, Microsoft has done its part, Google's done its part. We have all the technology. It's really time for organizations to start adopting implementations like Windows Hello and what we've done in Active Directory and Azure Active Directory so that they can deploy a passwordless world in their own environment and also in the consumer space, which is exciting. One thing that we specifically announced was a little nuanced thing. And so it's one thing to have a solution to get rid of passwords. It's quite another to completely eliminate them from your infrastructure. So prior to the announcement, we had a solution where you could use Windows Hello, a FIDO 2 implementation, and not use passwords. But the password subsystems were still baked into the directory services. And so we now have an option for our customers to literally disable the use of passwords. Whereas before it was you could use multi-factor or maybe a password instead. Now we can actually disable those passwords and force multi-factor authentication using something super convenient like Windows Hello with biometrics on a new device, or even using a PIN on maybe a device that doesn't have a biometric sensor.
And will this be a feature for home and corporate users, or will it be corporate only?
This capability to completely go passwordless is dependent on the person who's doing your identity verification. So our announcement was about Azure Active Directory and Active Directory eliminating the need for removing the possibility of a password, so you can disable it completely. We actually already have that with Microsoft accounts. And so now Google and others can start doing exactly the same things. They could create the conditions so that, for example, that passwords maybe are not an option if you were to go to Facebook. The implementation work would be required to be done by Facebook, but they can take this option too and standardize on FIDO 2.0 technology just like we have.
What I try to refer to is, will this also be an option for Windows? That I can no longer use a password to log into Windows itself?
Oh, to the device itself. Yeah, okay, I missed the question. Sorry about that. That's something that we could do. We haven't implemented that yet, so I sadly can't disclose. Yes, we're going to do that in the near future. But I think that's the natural progression, I think, of where we need to go. So it's really a question of when.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to all these new features. And I want to go passwordless as soon as I can. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.